once we get women applying for the roles, it's really important to have other women that they can talk to, that they can understand the experiences from, and just making sure that everybody in the business understands that, you know, we are in a different world now, and their opinions and their skills matter just as much as the men.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Armchair Show. I'm your host, Tanisha, and I'm thrilled to have you guys here today.
Thanks, Tanisha. Jeremy Evans, CEO of Marketing Delivery.
Hi, I'm Nahida Crisp. Thanks for having me. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director of Hills Motor Group.
Hi, I'm Carly. I'm Head of Marketing from Ancaster Group.
So today, before we started filming, we have been having some interesting conversations about what it's like being a woman working in the industry, and how we can encourage more women to work in the industry. So I know we've already been sharing some interesting stories before we started today. So why don't we kick off with some influential women in the industry that we know, and let's start off with some super positivity today rather than the negativity. So can you guys think of any influential women in the industry that we should kind of shine a light on today?
Well, shall I kick off?
Go for it.
As the man in the room. I guess the influential women in the industry, from my perspective, are those that I work with. So my commercial director, Charlotte, my head of marketing, G, my account managers, Sarah and Claire, they influence me daily. And they have a massive say in what we do in our business and how we work within the industry and with our clients. And yeah, they're the best people for the job, and they're in those influential roles because of that. And I work with them every day.
Nice. Any other recommendations?
Yeah, so I've got Paula Cooper. She's works at head office Toyota and Lexus. She's the director of Consumer One. So I've known her for quite a long time, and we recently went to Japan on a discovery program with different centres and Toyota, and she was with me through that as well. And she's an amazing woman and one of few in the industry.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think for me it's just seeing so many more women in influential positions. So we've got a new female director at Nissan in MGB now. The new marketing manager over there is Stephanie Staff. She's a female, obviously. And it's just really encouraging to see all these women popping up all over the industry where previously it was male contacts.
I think there's this perception, this preconceived perception about it being such a male-dominated industry, which it is, obviously, still to today. But there's so many fantastic women in the industry doing so many amazing roles that it's nice on days like today to shine a little bit of a spotlight on those women that perhaps don't have enough of a spotlight shined on them on everyday life. But it's not always positive with women in the industry. So I guess some of the stuff that we were discussing before we started is some of the challenges of being a woman in the industry. And obviously, Jeremy, you won't be speaking from personal experience. But I know that there will be experiences of things that you've witnessed, things that you're aware of as somebody that obviously works with many amazing women and hires so many amazing women. So what would you say are some of the challenges in the industry that we can work to improve?
I think for me it's getting the women into the industry. So I was saying earlier, I'll put a job advert out for perhaps sales and you just don't get many women apply. I'm not sure whether they're put off because it's the automotive industry. Is it the hours that puts them off? And I guess it's quite daunting if they do walk in and it is a male-dominated industry. I mean, we're lucky. I did the stats the other day and we're at 35%. Female in our industries, in our centre. So I'm quite proud of that, but I would still want, I don't want to look at a percentage. I don't like looking at statistics, but I want to encourage women to come into the industry. I came into it, but it was my only job, so I don't know any other industry. And I'd love people to see and, grow in the industry and see that they can really get a great experience in it. And it's not always about just cars, it's about looking at a career opportunity. And it's fun selling cars and working with cars and dealing with different people, and I'd love people to see that.
And 35% is so impressive, isn't it? So many dealers still striving for 30%. So it's fantastic that you guys have reached 35%.
So I was saying at Lexus, our service team is all women. It's 3 women, and the service manager there, he loves working with women. He says they're more organised. Not to say that men aren't. But, I won't tell you about my husband.
Probably true.
Fantastic. And is your experience similar?
Yeah, I think it's trying to encourage those sort of up and coming women to look at the industry. And the industry is changing. It is becoming more modernised, and there's different aspects. So I think when I started with Ancaster 10 years ago, we didn't have a marketing department. It was just me. And I think, so when girls are thinking about the automotive industry, they're thinking just sales and techs, which would be great if we can get more females into those roles. But there's so many others that are, the marketing careers and things like that people really study for that can now be brought across into the automotive industry.
And Jeremy, perhaps a good question for you as somebody that hires so many amazing women in your own business. Yeah. How do you think that we can do better to get more women actually applying for roles in the industry?
I think it'll take a bit of time, but I think it is changing, certainly in the supplier part of the industry, whether that's marketing, as we've spoken about, or the technology sectors within our industry. More and more women are in all sorts of roles, really, from tech support through to account director level and kind of everything in between on the boards of some of these companies. And I think that will naturally filter through into dealership land, if you like. It's good to hear that at OEM level it's happening, and that there are ladies on the board and in senior roles in OEMs. And you've also got that kind of gender balance is changing across supplier land as well. And I guess dealers will naturally follow suit as the industry becomes perceived as more of an equal opportunities. And as a woman, you can be. I've got a daughter, and I tell her she can do anything. If she wants to be a tech, and fix cars, she can. She's got no interest in cars whatsoever. But everything from sales roles to service and after sales roles to the associated supplier land roles. There's something there for everybody. As an employer, for me, it's always just about finding the best person for the job, regardless of who they are and gender or any other issue that would get in the way of it. It's just, are you the right person for the job? Are you the best person for my business and for the job? Will you get on with the people that you're going to be work with? And if that's the case, you're in and you've got the job. Some of the ladies that work with me, I mentioned G, my head of marketing. She came to me as a social media exec. She's now head of marketing. She's worked her way up in a very short space of time because she's good and she's the best person for that job. Charlotte came into my business as commercial director, having previously been a client of ours. So we have people who have come in at high levels and worked their way up from the bottom up, and it's just about being the right person for the role.
Yeah, amazing. And what attracted you both to the industry?
I think for me, I was just, in all honesty, I was just looking for a role, and it was marketing. And when I came, I wasn't sure how long I was going to be here, but I love it. I love the diversity of it. We've got so many different types of people in our business. So yeah, it's just kind of, in all honesty, I fell into it. Didn't know anything about cars. My knowledge was that's a red one, that's a blue one. And now, I love it. I really, really love it. And although it can be a challenge being a female, I'm up for that. I like to take it on. And as I say, it is changing. The people that and the people that won't change and don't want to see it differently, they're the ones that fall out of the industry pretty quickly because it is on that road.
Yeah, very similar experience to myself, looking for a marketing role, and it just happened to be automotive, but then fell in love with it, very, very similar to you. Yeah. Was your story similar, or did you?
No, I went to university, did a law degree, didn't want to pursue law, and applied for 120 jobs. And then car sales was the first one that came up, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to work and see how it goes. But again, I don't know much about cars, and I still don't all these years later. But you got what we do love is dealing with customers, and then work my way up, and then worked through, and then now feel like I'm in a good place. So
Fantastic. God, it was obviously meant to be 120 jobs, and that was
Well,
the one that chose
I've
you.
only ever worked at Toyota and Lexus, so which is unusual as well. But it'll be 26 years this year. So I started as a really young kid. So, a long
Fantastic.
time.
I think that saying of when you're in the industry that it's impossible to leave really is true sometimes.
And Toyota have been brilliant as well. So it's good. Head office don't really change too much. You get to know people, and I like the consistency. So, and hopefully our staff where we work at Hills will see that as well. That we want people to stay. We don't want. We're happy to move people around jobs, but we want people to see it as a career for life when they come to us.
And how can we empower and encourage more women when they do join the industry in terms of support and mentorship? Is there anything that you think that we either are already doing really great or that we can improve on to kind of support women a little bit better?
I think we just need to, once we get women applying for the roles, it's really important to have other women that they can talk to, that they can understand the experiences from, and just making sure that everybody in the business understands that we are in a different world now, and their opinions and their skills matter just as much as the men. So I think it's just about having that constant support and making sure that everybody in the business is on the same page.
Would you agree with that?
I agree. I mean, we operate open door policies everywhere. So, I mean, we've actually not got, with the way the showrooms are done, there's actually not a lot of offices. It's a lot of open plan. So the management team are sitting with all the different departments. At Toyota, we've got brand new showroom that it's a year old now, as in we've just had it refurbished, and the sales and the service department are all sitting together. So it's just about integrating and making sure that there are no barriers, no silos, and always knowing that every voice counts, and how can we make sure that everyone treats everyone with respect, whether it be male or female, young, old, different. We don't want any sort of we don't want any sort of barriers across to people, whether it be age. I've got a 72-year-old man working for me. We just don't want any barriers. Like you said, is the person right for the job? We need to look past anything, That's what I
And I think that's the true challenge, isn't it? We often talk about women in the industry because it is something that has historically been a challenge in the industry. But I think the real problem is just inclusivity, regardless of gender, regardless of age, regardless of race, and actually just making everybody feel welcome. If you're the right person for the job, you're the right person for the job, regardless. So I think that is the true challenge, is making everybody really feel welcome. So in terms of, barriers, we've spoken about barriers in the industry, but there's also a lot of opportunity in the industry, isn't there? And we have seen that there are more women coming into the industry and more women in leadership roles, which is fantastic. And there's so many initiatives in the industry to get even more women in leadership roles, which is great. But we're still a little bit behind some other industries, and the statistics still aren't completely there. We're tracking a little bit behind.
I think some of those programs are great. However, they're only within the industry. So if you're not already in the industry, you wouldn't know about it. So I guess the challenge as an industry is, how do we take that outside of our own four walls and take it into the community around where we are all collectively based. We go to careers fairs at local schools to talk about what we do, to talk to kids about digital marketing and the technology that sits behind it within the automotive world. I've never yet seen a dealership at one of those careers events. So maybe we need to take the message outside of the industry to attract people into the industry, because otherwise you do get the perception which is built up over generations, and it's not going to break down easily overnight. But if we're only talking to ourselves about what we're trying to do about it as an industry, how is anybody outside the industry going to know?
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, I think one of the other challenges that I personally see in the industry is that so many of the networking events are very male-dominated, led.
Yep.
There's lots of golf days that stereotypically, attract a certain demographic to those events. There's lots of curry clubs and events that once again attract a certain.
You just look at some of the big conferences, outside of those kind of little cliquey clubs. If you look at the main conferences and you look at the main speakers, it's 4 middle-aged white men in their late 40s or early 50s on a panel talking about something. That's not the way we do it when we're at these events, but when we look around at some of the other kind of panels on some of these at some of these events, it's not really doing much to help.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we've got 2 suggestions if anyone's watching and looking for a speaker today. 2 fantastic suggestions. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Is there anything that you think that we're missing from the industry that really you would kind of say that anybody watching today can kind of go away and make, even if it's a small, subtle change to their business that might make an impact to make it something, more appealing to women coming into the industry, perhaps?
Yes, we've got to look at how flexible can we be. I mean, I was lucky. I had my baby. He's 15. He's 16 this year, but I managed to work and come back to work after I had him. But I guess a lot of that is because I'd already established myself. So I left as a manager and come back as a manager. I only had a very short period of time off, and I was lucky I had my family to look after him. But I guess that must be something where some women think, oh, what am I going to do if I have a baby? So, I've done it, and it is tough. But I won't share this with my husband, but he's brilliant, so he understands that it's not always my job to do it. We share everything between us. So he used to do the school drop-offs, I used to do the collections. We'd share everything between us. It was never like, oh right, but you've got to do that because you're the mother. It's always, he does all the cooking at home, so you've got to make sure that you share it. And does your partner understand and respect that your job is your job and their job is their job? If you haven't got a supportive partner, I think it would be impossible for people to do it. But you can have a baby and you can work if you want to, but not if that's not for you, then I understand. But I would imagine that's probably a lot of anxiety for women, what they're going to do when they have a baby.
Yeah, so. Husbands take note.
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing. Any more suggestions?
Yeah, I think it's just, obviously it's when I first came into the industry, it was very, this is how we do it, this is the way, there's no other way. Not necessarily from my board, but just in general. It's very much, this is how it's always been done, so we're just going to keep on going. And I think obviously coming out of COVID, the whole world has changed, and trying to get that into the dealerships and into the staff has been really, it's been quite difficult because people want hybrid working. We've seen it through for all staff. We had a lot of people leave just after COVID because the hours and the lack of flexibility became really apparent, and they thought they could get that elsewhere. I do think the world is changing again now. I think that we've gone from wanting to be at home all of the time to now people want to be in the office. But again, it's that flexibility. And as a woman, if that's going to be something that becomes more available within the industry in certain roles, obviously there's roles within our industry that you cannot do from home. You can't be a mechanic in your living room. But
I'd like to see someone try.
But yeah, I think that opens up the door a bit more for women to come in when there is that flexibility there.
Absolutely. And the final question for today, we were doing, before we started the episode today, we were doing a little bit of research in terms of the types of questions and things that people are searching, as women before coming into the industry. And one of the key questions that kept coming up is what support and resources are available to women when they're coming into the industry or they want to join the industry. Is there any support or resources that you recommend, any conferences that you've been to, or mentorship programs, or anything particular in the industry that you recommend as a good place for women to kind of be able to find that support?
I think it's just about, in general, we have really good training programs from our manufacturers. As a dealer group, we make sure people go through robust training when they're taken on. So I think it kind of applies to both men and women, and I think that's also really key, that we're not differentiating. It's everybody's comes in with the same agenda, with the same training program, because actually we just want women to feel like I belong here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a specific training for women in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess exactly that. So again, I've got 2 of the men, they take their children to school 2 days a week. So it's again making sure that we don't differentiate. So yeah, and like the manufacturers do great. They do a lot of training. So unfortunately, they do a lot of training, but for certain departments. I'm still trying to get more training for different departments, but I've actually got host training arranged, which they're coming down to the dealership because some of the people don't drive. So just making sure, including every single department, not just sales training, not just service training, but they're actually coming down to do some host training for me as well. So
I guess it's about culture, isn't it? On the previous podcast that I was on with you, we talked about culture in the workplace, and it was about how people feel at work. If they feel that they belong, if they feel people are invested in them, if they feel supported, they'll enjoy what they're doing, and they'll enjoy working for that company. I guess the industry has a bit of a reputation for maybe not being that supportive to women historically. I do think it's changing, but I guess it's how we make it a bit more obvious to people outside the industry that it's changed or changing. So as I said before, it's we're good at talking about it within the industry, about initiatives within the industry that are going on, but we just need to get that message out beyond the industry into the wider world.
Fantastic. That's the end of my questions, but I like to always at the end give the opportunity, if there's anything else that you think I wish you'd asked, I wish I had the opportunity to say that, then now is the perfect time to add that in.
No, I think what you said about the fairs that you go to are a really good idea. So we've been trying to get into some local schools. We do quite a lot of apprenticeships. So it's just getting the people that are not already. We can tell ourselves all the same thing, but we want to let people know outside as they're applying, as kids really, so they can start planning their careers.
If 15, 16, 17-year-old girls go to their school career fair and there is a 18, 19, 20-year-old girl there who is an apprentice mechanic, technician, that sends quite a powerful message that it's not just for the boys, or an apprentice, or as a successful sales exec there. That sends quite a message that this industry is open to anyone who wants to come in and have a go at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone.